Welcome to the Sphere of Success podcast, where we have really interesting guests that relate things to our lives so that it's not just like, oh, yeah, well, it's all right for them. We make sure that we bring guests on that we think, yeah, I really resonate with that person. That's something where I think I could really take some guidance, maybe some tips and hints, etc., of how to do things and how to do them well. And today I have with me the most amazing lady. How she manages to get through everything she gets through in 24 hours and still get some sleep as well. I'm in awe of her productivity, which just goes to show you can do something when you really want to. So this is Dawn Grant that we have with us today. She is an author of 20 books. I can't believe that in itself. It's amazing. And the owner of 9 websites. So if we ever felt that we were busy, I think we just need to look at Dawn. She is a writer, a tech entrepreneur, motivational speaker and coach. She combines cutting-edge technology, time management, discipline, and marketing strategies with a touch of artistic flair, which we love, to ensure her products and services stand out in today's competitive landscape. She wants you to understand that the possibilities of your dreams and talents may be bigger than you realize. And yes, there may be pitfalls, but we're aware that they have ladders to help you climb out of the pits. She writes, creates, teaches, encourages, and speaks to motivate and inspire lives. She works with all ages, from children to pensioners. As a techpreneur, she has an overview in many different types of businesses and can help you more than you realize. Also, I just want to go on here. As a YouTube creator, Dawn is meandering through the journey as a curator and creator of programming on Black Economics TV, as well as Biz and Tech TV. She is interviewing some outstanding people who are typically hidden from view. That really resonates. I think that's amazing. 240 videos have been uploaded, which provide a knowledge bank of information about Black entrepreneurs and trailblazers. The channel has 25,800 subscribers and 5.7 million views. I mean, that is extraordinary. So welcome, Dawn Grant. It is an absolute pleasure and a privilege to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's wonderful. And you know what? If anybody listening and you think, oh, well, Dawn's going to be a tough cookie, this lady has a heart of gold and she's so totally approachable. It's just so lovely to think that people of this level of success are amenable and down to grassroots and getting their sleeves rolled up and being shoulder to shoulder with us all. There's no airs and graces with Dawn. It's just lovely that you are so down to earth and so approachable.
Okay, I must say that I'm climbing the ladder like everyone else. I don't think I've reached my pinnacle of success yet, far from it. So I humbly say to everyone, we're climbing up this road together.
I love that because we all have different strengths and we all have different areas where we can develop. And as we go up that upward spiral, it's something I think where we know how tough and how challenging it can be. But as you've said, you've got the ladders to be able to help people rise up. And if we all help each other to rise up, this is a hugely powerful opportunity. And so what I'd like to do is you're dealing a lot with Black economics. And I think that's an important subject, especially for today's difficult climate we're all in, especially in the UK and in Europe. We're just getting a little bit of shadow from your background. So just to let you know, in case people think, oh, where's Dawn disappeared to?
Okay.
Yeah, Dawn, tell us a little bit about what I'm going to use the word movement. Correct me if that's not how you want it
Yeah,
described.
that's fine. That's
Yeah.
fine.
But how do you say your movement, Black Economics, what is that doing and what's the purpose?
Well, a number of years ago, I began to do studies around Black wealth, Black poverty, business ownership, Black history, how we are where we are now, in that in many societies where uh, Blacks are in the minority, we don't always excel and do as well as the main population. So I wanted to study why this was. Some of it was historical facts, based on how, for instance, in America, how slavery occurred for 400 years, how then there was Jim Crow, and then there were civil rights issues. And even to this day, in 2025, we find that there's a huge amount of white people in America who don't think very much about Black people. They think that we're not good enough. This fight where they're trying to say, oh, let's put away DEI, it's as if they feel that Black people are achieving success and a lot of them are getting it because they're getting special treatment because of past issues. Now, I feel that there is something that we should celebrate because there are a lot of Black people who have talent and who managed to fight their way to the top despite racism, despite not have been brought up in a very wealthy family. They have managed to get there through education, through talent. You know, Black people are very talented, for instance, in music, in sport, in entertainment. So a number of people have been able to rise to the top and some are helping others to get there too. But for the vast majority of people, there are issues that you come across day by day, for instance, in the working environment. For instance, when people are even not working and they're looking for a job, you might not be the first person that someone would choose out of a lineup to hire. So I thought, well, let me do a website which will talk about the positive aspects of aspirations within Black communities, talk about people who've made it, but also trailblazers who are busy climbing up the ladder, who are busy helping other people, and who are showing great gifts and talents, but their trailblazing exploits are almost hidden. Nobody knows about it apart from maybe their family, their close environment, maybe their church or community group. So I felt it was good to be able to create a platform where people could see articles about trailblazers or entrepreneurs or educators or people who are top in their profession or even middle management who are doing fantastic things. I felt it would be useful to have a platform to do that. So, because I have the tech skills, I'm a web designer, I used to be head of IT, I'm aware of all the newfangled things that are out there, including AI. I can come up with an idea and I can create that idea. I can create a website within a day, within 2 days, it can be done. And then I can develop it over a period of months. The Black Economics website has been going for 20 years now. And at its height, it was getting 2 million hits a day. Sorry. At its height, it was getting 2 million hits a month. Okay. So the business was based around text based articles and pictures initially. And then over the last, I would say 3 or 4 years is when we got busy on a YouTube channel. Um, we started to interview some of these trailblazers and entrepreneurs, um, really to try and keep up with the fact that a lot of people like video now. You know, not so many people want to read a long article, but they're quite happy to listen to someone being interviewed. And because I'm owning the business and I couldn't get any of my team to go in front of the camera, I've ended up doing the interviewing. It's not that I'm trying to be the next Oprah or anything, not at all. But I'm actually genuinely interested in people's lives and people's businesses. And we have now broadened the channel, so it doesn't just interview Black entrepreneurs and trailblazers. It interviews white, Asian, other people too, who have something to teach others, whatever nationality they are. So I'm looking for um, stories which are good news stories, I suppose, but not just good news stories to make you smile and, have this kind of well-being factor, but also teaching you something that you can go away and learn from. You can be motivated about, and some of those videos can change lives. So I'm happy to be able to put this out to the world as my mission in life.
Well, I love this because ultimately, as you said, it's wonderful from all walks of life. And sometimes I believe that it doesn't matter what color skin we have or how our socioeconomic background. Sometimes the beliefs that we hold in ourselves and can be from childhood actually push us back. And I've been one of those people where, from, I suppose, on paper and from an outward view of the world, people would look at me and go, "You've had every opportunity that a privileged society can give you." But actually, they didn't realize that I lived in fear from outrageous abuse when I was a child by people who should have known better but had mental illness themselves, which wasn't discussed or discovered, I don't think, recognized. And that put me in a situation which really held me back, but that was me holding me back. And like anything, nobody's immune from that potential issue. And to judge people by the way in which they speak or the color of their skin or their socioeconomic background or their creed or whatever it might be, sometimes there's an inner issue that isn't necessarily externalized that can be a huge issue for that person, sometimes even from the subconscious. You don't even realize it yourself. And I think what you're doing with Black Lives, but now, as you're saying, looking at different walks of life, different sort of socioeconomic backgrounds, different races, etc., and bringing that together, because we've all got our own unique stories, haven't we?
Absolutely. And there are things in our conversations that you've taught me. And I don't know, maybe I might have given you a nugget that you found useful. So the idea is to help everyone to respect each other and for people to get to know the inner workings of uh, another minority group. Because, we live in the UK, America's going through similar issues. Um, People would tend to either want to be friends with us or ignore us because they feel, oh, I can't get to know that person. Then they can't be my friendship group because they're black, because they're Asian, because they're Chinese. Having different friends from different nationalities, I think it makes the world a better place. I think it makes life more interesting. I don't know if you've ever watched a TV program, and everybody's all from one race. And the interest isn't so much there, and you will have noticed the popularity of things like Love Island and Big Brother. They try their best to have a diverse range of people in the house to begin with, and that really does add to the interest of the program. Because if I saw something that was all black, I might watch it, but if I see something that has a mixture of people, I'm probably more likely to watch it because I want to see how everybody plays off each other and how people learn from each other, you know? So I think we should appreciate a diverse world, appreciate a diverse workplace. Those workplaces in America that are jumping on the bandwagon saying, yeah, we're going to scrap DEI and so on, they don't realize they're regressing, taking us back 100 years, 150 years, and, you know, it doesn't work in today's modern society, as we can see from what's happening at the top. Sorry about getting into politics, but
Well,
politics
no,
is one
I'm
politics is one of my
fine.
bugbears. I love the news. In fact, I would probably say I'm a news addict. Maybe less now because the news is a little bit more stressful, I would say. But over the years, I've always been very much into the news, into politics. Oh, what's going on, man? I don't want to miss anything.
Well, the other thing is, if you're not involved, you don't have anything to say about things not going the way that you want them to. And you know
Yeah,
what? I think
yeah.
we all need to stand up with a voice that says, you know, I feel that this means this, and you know, I think that if there's an ideology that comes into play and then pushes the barrier, and there's nobody there to have a voice of reason on whatever side that is, then it starts to invade, and then all of a sudden it's taken over, and people go, well, how did this come into play? And it's like,
Well,
yeah, nobody
exactly.
actually kind of pushed back and actually corrected it or put it in a way so anything in excess is not necessarily going to be a good thing, because
Mm.
that's how it is. However noble the ideal is when it started, often it becomes corrupted, and therefore, yeah, it's wrong to have that all the way through. We do need the voice of reason, even when we sit there at the point we think, I don't agree with that. Well, the fact is, I always think as well that if you don't agree with something, why? Why is it that I don't agree with that? What is it about it that sets me apart from that? Why do I have a negative stance? And sometimes that's an educational process where I look and I go, well, actually, that belief I had at the beginning wasn't actually founded in something which was in truth. It was all about maybe a perception rather than reality. And I'm very open to changing my mind about something if I can, if it can be argued in a way where I go, actually, you know what, you've got a point. You've got a point. And it's just like, I know that I've developed over the years, which I think, you know, is something that everybody could be looking at. I don't want to be the same person that I was when I was 10, 20, 30. And as the years advance, I want to change and move and grow and develop and
That's
not
right.
have the same thought processes that I did way back when. Who tells me that I've got to think the same as I did as a
Yeah.
younger teenager? And then I
Mhm.
become older and have different influences. And so have you seen within the Black community, have you seen a change of thought process over the years about how the Black community view themselves and their aspirations and where they want to be?
Yes, there's definitely many more successful people, both in the corporate space, the professional space, academics, a lot more people with doctorates, a lot more Black professors now. Um, Also a lot more entrepreneurs. And there are some people who have great jobs and they're doing side hustles. So they're looking at how they can use all of their time, not just use their talents for the workplace, but see what they can create outside of the workplace as well. So that is welcome because when my parents from the Caribbean, when they came here to work, whether it was in the buses or in the NHS or in the factories. They came here to work. They were called over by the British after the war, when so many people had died after the Second World War. So they came to islands like myself. Antigua is the island that my family are from, and there are many other Caribbean islands as well. So they came with a work ethic to work for someone else. Now, some proceeded to go on to get an education as well, and some were able to stay in professions and rise up in professions, but not as many as you have now. I mean, obviously, the population has grown somewhat, but we also have some very ambitious people now. People who are not content to earn 2 or 3 thousand a month. They want to be earning 10K a month, 20K a month. And really, if you are going to change a community and take it onto a different level, you can't just depend on a job because there's a ceiling in terms of what you can earn. So it does mean that people have to work harder, work smarter, get to know technologies, and use all the methods available to increase their own wealth and their family's wealth and hence the community's wealth. So that's why we at Black economics, we look at the fact that there are different strands that people take to earn money. Some go through the food route. They have food businesses. Some do fashion. Some do tech. Some do music. Some do entertainment. Some do visual art. There's so many different ways. And on our YouTube channel, as well as on our website, actually, we have separated out these different sectors, business sectors, to actually showcase people that are doing well in those areas. So people can always learn. So, I mean, the idea really was that we were building up a knowledge base of articles as well as videos so that people can go and learn. And it's not just Black people who are learning, there are many people from other nationalities who are learning from us because sometimes, um, I think some people have a really good way of sharing their knowledge. And we have a lot of Black presenters and Black creators, I've got to say, whether they're on LinkedIn or they're on Instagram or TikTok. I don't know if you actually see the amount of creative material that is being put out there by Black creators. Because when it was Black History Month in America, 2 months ago in February, I was amazed at the amount of Black History videos which were out there. And I thought it was quite funny because in parts of America, I don't know if you're aware that they're bands teaching around Black history, and they've banned certain books as well written by Black um, authors, and they're practically trying to whitewash slavery like it didn't happen, or people came over to work kind of thing,
Oh,
not
okay.
that
They just
they're
didn't
not
get
talking
paid
about the
for it, and
horrors.
they were treated in the most appalling conditions. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
But that still
yeah. And
happens
in
today. Yeah, absolutely.
two states I can think of where it's actually in their state laws is Florida and Texas. Now, how very strange is that? But I
Really?
thought to myself, well, that information is now going all over social media. So if they don't want kids to learn at school, they're certainly going to find out on social media because they're on social media for many hours a day.
You know what? This
Little
is the
clips.
this is so important with the wonderful things. I mean, social media in its bad form is horrendous, and in its great form is fantastic. You're always going to get that polarization. But if a child wants to learn about stuff and see what things are like, there's a plethora of opportunities, as you
Exactly.
say, especially with your channel, to actually look and go, wow, I've turned away a lot. And I know you're talking about the news. I thought, I don't really see the unbiased approach of news. So I decided I would research and do my own news rather than say looking at it from mainstream media's perspective. And it's very interesting listening to a channel like Al Jazeera or Fox or CNN or BBC or whatever it is that I'm looking at, and I'm thinking, well, where's my take on this? What do I think? So it's much easier to access different channels of news. But one thing I'd like to sort of concentrate on as well is it's just like being called a white person. There's many different cultures within people who have a white or a paler skin. And again,
Mhm.
there's such a rich history between black skinned people that the Caribbean, as opposed to the North African or the South African, there's such much, and to lump everybody in under that black umbrella. I'd like your take on the various cultures and rich history of what makes up, the black sort of the black community, because there's so much variety in that.
Okay, very true. Well, we call them the African diaspora. And yes, there are so many different groups within this diaspora. They're the Africans themselves, those who have always been in Africa and who are still there. There is a very rich history of Africa, even before Africans were taken away from parts of the West Africa to come to the West, to be taken to the West as slaves. There's a very rich history of dynasties, of empires, of extremely rich kings and rulers. And of course, we have Egypt and the pharaohs.
Mm.
And there, although we know that North Africa, a lot of it was, it was invaded by Arabs, so a lot of North Africa is still very much a lot of Arabs and lighter skinned blacks. Um, we know that Egyptians, they were black because we've seen their images. And if you go to the British Museum, you see the images of pharaohs and other dignitaries that were taken or stolen from Egypt. And you can see that their nose is wide, their lips are full, and even the Sphinx and other big statues over in Egypt, they try to disguise that by knocking off the nose, by knocking off part of the mouth, so that people wouldn't think that it was black Africans who inhabited those lands. So that's very interesting to see. Mansa Musa, who was the richest person of his time, and in fact is comparable even till now. He came visiting the West, visiting Egypt, and he was dripping in gold. And that was probably one of the amazing times when people were like, "Oh, black man." But his story is actually quite fascinating as well. I think they're thinking of doing a film about him, so that should be fascinating. But there are a few books which talk about the empires in Africa and the huge libraries and how there was so much education in Mali before even Europe, and how Europe was also ruled by the Moors, who were black Africans, for 700 years. Now, that's the kind of history that a lot of people don't want to know and they don't want to believe because they think, oh, that people are dumb, they don't know anything. That's not true.
Oh.
I think as people get to know and see the creativity of black people on social media, because for some that's the only place they're ever going to see it. That's the only place, because they might not actually have come in to know a black person personally, or they might have seen them on TV, maybe on a sports, in basketball, football, whatever. But there's a lot of creativity, there's a lot of intelligence. I'm forever seeing young black children, 2, 3, 4 year olds, doing complicated mathematics on social media. I'm like, oh, I've seen so many of white children do this, but I see a lot of black children who are actually geniuses in their field. So we need to stop with this thing about black people are not, can't do as well and are not achieving as much. We have a way to go because there's still some catching up to do in a lot of countries, I've got to say. And in some countries, there's no movement at all because nobody's changing. Everybody um, has come up with their racist ways, and nobody's educating them to change. And I don't know. It's a problem that probably has a solution, but I don't know how far we as Black economics can reach in terms of, helping to educate people. We're trying to do our best. Now, there's a Caribbean, of course, where my more recent ancestors hail from, um, where there were Africans who were taken in slave ships to the islands, and they were working for free. They were also taken to America where they were working for free. They were slaves. They were sold as if they were products. They weren't treated as human beings. They were beaten, raped, tortured, and basically they helped to build up America. They helped to build up Caribbean. They helped to build up England. You see a lot of these huge, wonderful buildings in the city of London. Well, where do you think that money came from? And then you also have uh, black people who were there before the Americans arrived. There's a video I came across this morning. This is where it's an example of where I'm saying Black history is being taught through social media. An amazing Haiti historian who said there were 2 or 3 million Black people already in Haiti before the Europeans came. Now, that number kind of shooks me. I mean, and this was the case across South America as well. There were Black people already arrived. And they already had a civilization, but the Europeans decided to come and, institute their own civilization, their own religions. But unfortunately, in Haiti, within 11 years, there were only 100,000 Haitians, Black Haitians, left on the island. So then they started to bring in more slaves. And then they started to dominate in such a way that Black people couldn't live as free people. They couldn't be happy, couldn't have a peaceful life. And the first revolution against slave owners was actually in Haiti. And they beat the French. It was the French who dominated the island at that time. And you know what France did? I don't know if you know this bit of history, but France actually decided that they were going to charge a non-colonial fee. In other words, if you're not going to be a colony, you have to pay us compensation. And that compensation in today's money would be billions. In that time, it was millions. And up to very recently, Haiti was still paying that money. And there have been calls for France to pay back that money. Because as you may know, Haiti has a very unstable government now, and it's considered as poor. Well, at one point, it was thought to be the poorest nation. Well, they were busy giving all their money and all their resources to France. So,
Well,
kind of,
well,
what do you expect? You
well,
know?
this is very interesting because I remember the time in history when Britons were slaves to the Romans. I mean, slavery is just one of these horrible things that continues to this day, and in numbers
Yes, it
which is
does.
just
It does.
horrendous. But ultimately, there are very few nations at some point that haven't been enslaved by other nations. And indeed, slavery has been going on in Africa before the European settlement and what have you, just one of these awful things about human beings, I suppose, and the way in which we downtrod the people that we conquered or what have you. But I've been listening to a very interesting podcast with a gentleman called Jordan B. Peterson and his guest from South Africa about the South African heritage. And right before anything, the indigenous people originally in South Africa were called, I think, the Bushmen. And then the Zulus started to come in, and they were more of a warrior-like tribe and drove a lot of the Bushmen to different parts of the country or what have you. And then it's this very interesting mixture of how that country then came and was again kind of like this invasion thing and people taking over and different factions, etc. And the intricacy of the heritage. And that's why I wanted to allude to this, to sort of like the one color fits all. All people aren't just white people. We've got different cultures within the white population, but the sheer breadth of the cultural element of the Black people in South Africa, coming from so many different areas within and without of Africa, coming in from settlements, etc. And it's those difference of cultures. It to be right, to be celebrated and really held as a wonderful testimony to the richness of the country. But then you've got that area of the Zulu oppression of the Bushmen, and then you've got the oppression of the different cultures within the Blacks when the Europeans were coming in, and this sense of, I just don't know why, because I'm not built like this as a person, but why do people, even from a culture, the same culture, why do they all feel that somebody has to be an oppressor and then somebody has to be the
Very true.
oppressed?
Very true.
I don't know why there is that human trait that doesn't rise everybody up, because the power of rising everybody up, sometimes we can't have a quality of outcome because there's certain things in human beings where we have different abilities, and therefore it's tough to have the same outcomes if we have different abilities. We all have wonderful qualities, it just might equate in different ways, which I completely understand, because we're all different in that way. But why can't we just as a collective say we are a human race? We are a human race before we are different factions in that. I'd like your take on that, because
Well,
if we could just rise together, wouldn't it just be fantastic?
it's a billion-dollar question, isn't it? Why can't we all just live in peace? Why can't we all respect and love each other? I think you need to ask that to the racists, and they'll probably come up with some excuse. But even within black communities, there was factions fighting. Even within white communities, there are
Yeah,
factions fighting. Maybe this is life. Maybe this is where God engineered it, that somehow we would have problems and fights so that we would have to turn to him. So remember that there is a creator. I'm not sure. I mean, even the Bible there's a lot of fights and wars, and the Lord actually giving permission for the Jews to go and kill off everybody in another land. Uh, Maybe that's kind of it's a puzzle. It's a
it is
paradox
a
in that, because the
puzzle.
Lord has tell us we've got to love each other. We've got to look after each other. And if you do good, good returns to you. But sometimes you see people doing evil and they're still having good things happen to them. So it's one of
It's not
those
fair, is
mysteries
it?
in life
We don't live
that,
in a fair world where the righteous are
yeah, that sadly,
amplified and the evils are downtrodden. Sometimes it's a
yeah,
completely reverse. Yeah,
sadly, I don't have the answer for, but I know that there have been situations where religions have helped, just try to teach people how to live the right way. There are religious books, gospels, the Quran. They teach good things, but as I said, even in the Bible, even in the Quran, you find there are times where God has given permission to go and kill somebody or to go and, damage a community. And this has been the way it has been since Cain and Abel.
there we go. Yeah, yeah.
So
There's one
what
of
can I
those
say?
things. I mean, this is a fascinating subject, and one which, I'm always very conscious. Everybody's allowed their own view. We're all allowed our own view. And this is the thing about freedom of speech. I might not like what somebody says, but I think that freedom of speech is very important, because otherwise, if we can't speak freely, we can't enter into a dialogue, and then we can't educate. Because if we're all worried about saying the wrong thing, we won't say anything, and therefore education can't happen in the same way unless we're open and
Yeah,
be willing to say, I might be wrong, and I'm
yeah,
willing to be proved wrong. If somebody comes in with a good solid argument, like, well, why do I always, as I say, leading back, why do I always have to keep the same views as I had from when I was younger? Surely as
yeah,
an adult I
yeah,
should be maturing my views and taking into account other views. As long as I think there's a core value system that runs through me, and you've mentioned it here, there's something the Bible says, do to yourself what you would, what they say, do to others what you would do to yourself. And
and this is why
therefore,
it's
yeah, sorry, you go ahead. Yeah,
and this is why it's important that there are leaders, strong leaders who can influence a section of a population, lead them in the right way. We've mentioned a few examples of religious teachings. Ministers, pastors, community leaders, they're so important. Activists, people who try and steer people in the right way. It's so important because otherwise you have people all drifting off in their own directions and doing what they feel like doing what gratifies them now, but which might turn out to be painful and hurtful to other people.
And to
And
themselves as well.
sorry,
And to themselves. I've done lots of things in my life that I've thought, I enjoy that, but actually it didn't serve me. It caused me a lot of pain. Yes, it probably caused
exactly,
others pain, but actually the person
exactly.
most hurt with that wrong thinking was me.
Yeah, 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 exactly. So leaders are so important because in some ways they can help to change a local area, they can help to change a town, a country. But sometimes you have some bad eggs who end up being leaders.
Mm-hmm.
And this can sometimes be where the problem is. You may have tribal factions. You may have half of one family going in one direction, the other half another direction. Who's going to bring the two together? It's a difficult situation. And it's one of those questions in life that we always want to ask. Like saying, oh, why is there evil in the world? Why is there illness in the world? This is the world that we have, and the best that we can do is make sure we have the tools to be able to withstand the onslaught of negative events, which will happen to everybody,
Mm-hmm.
even the billionaires. There's a few suffering right now, I know. Okay? There's some events, happenings that will occur in our life at some point.
Mm.
And I sometimes say to my daughters, I only have daughters, by the way, in case you're wondering why I said daughters. I say, you know, life happens sometimes in ways you're really happy about. Things occur that, oh, you're on top of the world. And it might be that you're there for a few weeks, 3 months, a few years even. But when you look right in the corner, there will be something that occurs which is negative, which you hate. There will be somebody trying to bring you down for whatever reason. You know, you might have said something that they're offended with, and then they don't talk to you for ages, or they do something bad to you. There may be an occasion where someone betrays you that you trust. We just don't know what's around the corner, or it could be a natural occurrence. I mean, look at the houses that were burnt down in Los Angeles very
Mm-hmm.
recently, you
Yeah.
know, from those wildfires. Look at people who are suffering from floods, earthquakes, volcanoes exploding. We just don't know what's around the corner. So we have to try and have the tools to manage stress. Those are key things that we need to do. Educate ourselves in terms of how we can make our lives better, but also how to manage stress. Because everybody goes through that period of time when you're stressed. And sometimes it's not even that something's happened to you. You just wake up and you're in a funk today. Oh, I'm no good. I'm depressed. Whatever I've done is rubbish, and it happens to everyone. We have down days, I call them, but thankfully we should have more up days, a lot more up days than down days.
Well, do you know what? It's like an ebb and flow. If we always were upwards, it would be exhausting and we would not appreciate what we've got. We need the downside to appreciate the upside because as human
Very true.
beings, if we didn't have the downside, we wouldn't appreciate the circumstances that we are in when we're on the upside.
Exactly, exactly.
And the wonderful thing you said is helping with anxiety. Yes, we can. I know I woke up a few days ago and it absolutely resonated what you said. And I thought, I feel pretty awful actually. What's this all? And I thought, where's that come from? What's coming up to derail me today? And I just went, okay, well, it can't be a bed of roses all the time because roses have thorns too. So,
Yes, they do.
it's all part of the same thing. What I'd like you to do, and there's a slight detour now. You are very good. I've seen in the bio that you gave me in full talking about sometimes, and I'm going to use the word the excuses that people make. I'm like, I'm too busy, I haven't got time, I can't do this, etc. And you're a lady that, I mean, I'm going to be learning from you because you really do seize the moment, and you get stuck in, and you do, and you don't look back, and you might look back for reasons for education, but you're not looking back and going, oh, I wish I was, or oh, things are, you're there and you're living moment by moment, and huge productivity. Can you give us some examples of how you help people to get over those stumbling blocks?
Okay. There are four big excuses that people tend to have for not achieving, not doing the things that they want to do. And that could be in personal life, could be in work, could be in business. One of the big excuses is, I have no money. This should not be used as an excuse. I did 80% of what I have achieved with no money, nada. And when I happened to need money urgently, there were some kind people around me who sometimes kept me afloat, or sometimes I managed to meander my way to actually find the money to do particular tasks. But I'm saying 80% of what I've done it with no money. I've done it based on setting the time aside, learning how to do particular things, and getting on with it. So don't say I have no money. That should not be a thing that stops you. The other thing that people say is I have no time. Now, I mentioned time just now. This should not be used as an excuse. We have 24 hours in a day, and maybe you might sleep maybe 7 hours of this day, or maybe you might sleep 8 hours. Let's allow for the time that you're winding down. So let's say there's 8 hours. So that leaves 16 hours in a day. Now, of those 16 hours, are you trying to tell me you can't find 1 hour or two, or half an hour here, half an hour there? Are you telling me that you don't have time to sit down, do a task that's going to take you further than you were yesterday? If we all spent half an hour every day working on a particular task, by the end of the month, you'd be amazed at what you've achieved. Now, as said earlier on, I've written a lot of books. Now, when I write books, I like to set aside time, and I like to set aside a good amount of time, not just half an hour for me. I like 2 or 3 hours. I like to get into that zone. Now, you have time if you get up earlier. So between, say, 5 and 8, you could be doing some writing. Or in the evening, between 6 and 8. Or even at your lunchtime. We all have phones, we all have notes app on our phone. You could be writing a couple of chapters in your lunchtime. What's to stop you writing it on your phone and then just add it onto your document on your laptop later on? So I make time for things I really want to do, and you can too. If someone says to me, "Oh, to write a book and I've been writing it for 10 years," I'm like, you're not serious. You don't really want to do this thing, because if you really wanted to finish it, you would give yourself 3 months and you say, right, within this 3 months, I'm going to get this task done. This is how I'm going to spread that time out. I'm going to set out the chapters. I'm going to allow a chapter per week. And seriously, if you do that and you do that regularly, you'd be shocked at what you can achieve. So the fact I've written 20 books that people seem surprised about, it shouldn't be that surprising, really. It's just that I made that a priority rather than watching a whole lot of TV or Netflix, or going out and having fun. I would focus on doing some writing, you know, and that's my goal. That's my aim. And if that's your goal and your aim, you will make it happen. You can't be making excuses. And if you don't know how to do certain things, that's a third excuse people give. I don't know how to. Well, hey, do you know what? There's myriads of ways to learn. There's books. These people who made their billions and millions, most of them have written books. Have you even bought those books? Or have you listened to them on audiobooks? Actually, do you know there's so many free audiobooks on YouTube? I was actually surprised when I discovered that one day, because there's a book that I bought, a printed book, and then I discovered it was available as an audiobook on Audible. And then I also discovered it was available free to listen to on YouTube. So I think that's an interesting angle. Some publishers are doing that, publishing the audiobook on YouTube as well, because they know that people listen to it there, they can eventually earn as well. So you can read a book, a printed book, you can read a PDF, you can read an ebook, you can listen to an audio book, or you can listen to the um, entrepreneur or trailblazer. You can listen to them if they've done an interview. And that's one of the things I like to do. I come across a new name. I'm fascinated by a little video I've seen, say, on Instagram, a little snippet of what's in their brain, and I want to know more about what's in their brain. So I go check out on YouTube. Have they done a longer interview? I then start stalking their social media, and you can learn from so many different people. So I've actually created a list of who I call my distant role models, and these are people that I will regularly check their social media or listen to their interviews, make notes on some of the things that they've said that I feel can help to move me on to the next level. So you can't be saying I don't know how when there's so many people out there who are teaching you how. And you can find them on countless course websites as well. And so many people also doing free webinars. I mean, for instance, I came across Deborah through a free webinar that she put on about podcasting. So here we are now. And then the other thing, the fourth thing that people like to say is, I have no one to help me. Well, hello. I'm here to help. Deborah's here to help. Find other people that you can connect with on social media you can help. You may not have a family member in that area at all. And so some people feel, oh, I can't do it because I don't know anyone in that area. People are making friends all the time on social media. There was this app that a lot of us were listening to during lockdown, during the pandemic, called Clubhouse. So many people met each other and did business and learnt from each other via Clubhouse. Apparently, it's still going, although you don't hear much about it, but it's still going. And I'm going to say, the people that I've approached sometimes on social media, most of them have been happy to speak with me, whether it's because I want to interview them or because I'm interested in what they're offering, or I just make a comment. You know, I made a comment under someone's X post the other day, and that person immediately, well, within 10 minutes, sent me a DM. I thought, oh, what do you think is that? It just so happens he's coming to the UK in 2 weeks' time. Are we going to meet up? So this is how the world is. You know, you can actually reach out to strangers who are doing great things, and many of them will come back to you. Of course, if you try and reach out to some top celebrities, they are most likely to ignore you. And then you might have to try and meander through particular channels, you know, through their PR, through their website, through their representative, to see if you can have a conversation. So it's not so easy with people at the top. But there are many people who are bubbling under the top. They're close to the top, but they're bubbling under, who they're actually putting out information all the time that you can learn from. So that should be no excuse that don't know anybody, because you can almost pretend you know somebody well when they're putting out information. They're putting out all their secrets. Some you have to pay for, and others are just putting it out because they feel that good content helps to raise their profile. So there you go. No excuses, please.
I love this because I talk about people and elevating their profiles and getting sales in through podcasting, and I go, I've got time to do a podcast. And then we did talking about this. I said, what did you do last night then? And they go, oh, there was a great thing on EastEnders last night, and I watched it all the way through. And I'm like, okay, is EastEnders going to get and fulfill your dream? And I'm not knocking EastEnders, don't worry. Just it's cool if you've got the time. I don't watch that because I've prioritized that. Actually, I'm going to be living my own show. I'm going to be living my own TV drama. I'm going to be
I
living
hear you.
the Deborah
Exactly.
Blackman
Exactly.
show. And so,
Exactly.
that I don't want to look at other people's lives. And I'm not knocking it to the sense, but if you're using that as an excuse, stop it. Stop using it as an excuse, because
Well said.
that's not going to
Well
pay the
said.
bills. That's not going to make you into where you want to be doing that. However, if you want to, which I do, and I immerse myself in because I'm in the podcasting industry, every morning, one of the first things I do is tune into a really good educational podcast or a really good motivational podcast or something that's about
That's good. That's
or
good.
finance or mindset or something, because I take it on lots of different levels. I think how they interview and how they're coming across, what kind of questions they're being asked, how the profile of the show is. But then I'm thinking as well, what's the content? What can I learn from this? And literally, I've been listening to people. I'm very interested in psychology and spiritual stuff and etc. And I tell you what, I talk to people now on it and they go, did you do a psychology degree at university? And I'm like, no, I've just learned all of this. And you mentioned about audiobooks, right? One of the things is I did as part of my homework, I invest in coaches and mentors because I just think that they're amazing. So one of my coaches for homework said, I want you to read this book. So I found it on Audible and I played it at 1.5 times the speed. I could still listen to everything. I could still gather that going on. I finished that book in like 4, 5 hours of listening to it. And it's not like I haven't not remembered it. I really remember that. And now I'm thinking, right, I've got to now get into that mindset that every single night before I go to bed, I also read a book, but I'm going to listen to Audible at 1.5 times the speed on something that is within my chosen subject that I want.
That's a great tip.
1.5 times the speed. I can't
Yeah.
read that quick.
Yeah.
And I just listened to it and it's like another chapter, another chapter, another chapter. And I'm like, another book. And that's all that person's knowledge for pretty much free, as you said, or free, just going in me. I've just got 30 years of their experience in 5 hours.
It's amazing.
30 years in 5 hours. And I'm like,
Yeah.
this is explosive stuff. So I
Yeah.
love what you do. That's why I'm absolutely 100% wanted to get you on the podcast, because I thought, Dawn, you've got so much to offer. So how can people get hold of you?
Okay. Well, they can email me. The email is dsgrant.book@gmail.com. They can go to my website, which is dsgrant.co.uk. They can check me out on Instagram. There is early dawn _. And they can also check me out on Facebook. I'm there as Dawn Grant. You'll be able to recognize the picture. I'm there in a yellow top. Also on X as dsgrant_writer. So those are the different ways in which people can contact me. And of course, I have my main YouTube channel, which is Black Economics TV. You can just do a search for that. You will see me on most of the videos. And also, I'm building up another channel called Biz and Tech TV, which looks at tech issues, and there'll be more interviews on that coming up shortly. But that's just started. So that'll be interesting to see that journey.
Oh, fabulous. And this is another thing. We are ladies, yeah, because we are ladies, but gents as well. We're not letting age, we're not letting creed, color, ethnicity, views stand in our way. We're out here, and you might think I'm terrible, and that's your choice. And good luck to you. I wish you well. But you know what? If I didn't do this, I would be doing everybody a disservice that thinks this is cool and interesting. So I'm out there for positive abundance and being I'm a lady of faith, but whatever faith that might be, I'm personally a Christian, but that might not suit everybody, and that's absolutely fine. But I would do my God a disservice if I didn't use the skills and talents that my God gave me to put that out there. And so this is why I do it, because I love it and I want to contribute. That's what you're doing, Dawn. You're out there, you're giving the benefit of your experience and your knowledge and the value that you can bring to people out there, largely free of charge again. It costs nothing to go onto your YouTube channel, get educated. And as you said, it doesn't matter if you are Black, if you're white, if you're Chinese, go to that YouTube channel, because you will learn. You will learn a
Mm.
different perspective. You'll learn different ways of looking at the world. You'll appreciate what other people have gone through, what they're contributing, what abundance and joy they're getting out of life. And I
Mm.
think that's just an amazing thing that you're giving to the world. So thank you, Dawn. It's been wonderful to have you on the show.
Oh, it's been a real pleasure to be here. Thank you. And also to say, I do give a time management template, which is either on Word or Excel, whichever one you prefer. And that's free. You can go to my website, look on the offers page, and um, you will see how to actually download that template. Okay? So I hope that'll be useful for you guys.
Lovely. And everybody listening, please do jump onto Dawn's various channels. I think she's a she is a very well respected author, public speaker, tech entrepreneur, and an educator, leader with a heart. That's Dawn. She's a leader with the heart and very approachable. So do be in touch with her, because I know that she can share so much wisdom with you. So everybody listening, thank you so much. It wouldn't be here without you. I think it's terrific that you tune in. Do like, comment, subscribe, and share as well, because this episode could be just what somebody's looking for. And I'm always here as well to be contacted too. Would love to hear from you. And until next time, be successful and see you all again very soon. Bye bye now.
Thank you.